Men are better leaders than women. Wow. Nearly 100 of you in this room, and none of you spoke up. And I don't believe that you all agree with what I just said. Now, why is it? Is it because we don't heckle TEDx talks? The other speakers will definitely thank you if that's the case. Or is it that we're feeling safe in this space together and we don't want to disrupt that feeling of belonging? I've gone through my whole career not being afraid to speak up, not being the one that stayed silent. And it's cost me. It's cost me jobs, relationships, and sometimes the belief that what I was doing was worth it. And I think that we've got belonging backwards. We think that the people who are challenging our comfort don't belong. But what if they're the only ones that remember what we're meant to be doing? So let's start off with thinking about what good belonging might look like. If it's in a place of work, then there's no dramas. Meetings flow nicely. Pizza Fridays. And then maybe there's that suggestion box that doesn't get opened. And the open door policy that no one walks through. I've recently had the amazing opportunity to feel a real deep sense of belonging. I've just got back from driving a tuk-tuk, yes, one of those crazy three-wheeled vehicles, 1,200 kilometres across India with 32 other women that I'd not met before. And very quickly, this deep-rooted, honest sense of belonging came between us. We were sharing honesty. That mask that we put on was dropped. We were even handing out wet wipes at the side of the road. And that's because we had a shared mission. We were all fundraising. And that's the kind of belonging that I think a lot of organisations want to build, but most of them don't, or they certainly don't keep it. So if you're in work, have a think back to your last 3 meetings. How many people asked an awkward question? How many people challenged? If your answer's 0, then I don't think you have harmony. I think you have silence. Now, at the beginning of this talk, I said something a little bit controversial. And no one spoke up. Maybe that's because you all needed to warm up into your role as audience. But it's not coincidence. A psychologist named Solomon Asch proved this in the 1950s. And he performed a very simple visual test and got people to say which lines matched. And it was blooming obvious. But when a whole group deliberately gave the wrong answer, over a third of the remainder went along with it, even though they knew it to be false. Why? They didn't want to stand out. Now that was just lines on a piece of paper. What if the stakes were higher? What if it was your career or your reputation? Or what if the stakes were global? In the work that I do with businesses, I see the same pattern. Businesses start with a cause, a problem that they've absolutely obsessed with solving. And at some point, belonging shifts. They move from, what are we here to do? To, this is how we do things around here. And they found themselves moving from purpose to process. I once worked for an organisation that had an enviable culture. Everyone had wanted to work there until it changed. And they'd got to a point where no one would speak up when there was a manager or leader in the room. So they tried something. They asked the managers to step out. And what happened was phenomenal. Ideas came. Short-term wins, longer-term strategy plays. And one junior developer had had a 6-figure idea that she'd been sitting on for 4 months, but she didn't share it because she didn't want to overstep. So now imagine those managers coming back in the room. And they see the post-it notes, and they see the whiteboards. And they are patting themselves on the back. That was a brilliant idea, Bob. Well done. But what does it say about the culture that the managers had to leave for those ideas to be shared? I'm sorry, Bob. I don't think that's success. I think that's more of a warning sign. Research shows us that a new employee will stop asking awkward questions at about 3 months. 3 months into their new role, they've learned the room. They've learned what's acceptable. And hey, maybe they want to make it through their probationary period. But the key thing is that they're stopping asking those questions. And then the next person stops, and the next, until suddenly no one is asking any awkward questions at all. And I've lived this. I've been that sole person asking the awkward question, asking why are we about to do this 6 months of work for something that our client has not asked for. You can imagine how that landed. All sat round a boardroom table, and the most senior person in the room said slightly more colourful language than, "Wind your neck in, Em." And the observant of you in the room will have noticed that I have a disability. And when that came into my life, I mourned something. Not what my feet were no longer able to do, but I'd been in a club that I didn't know I belonged to, the able-bodied club. And I only realised it when that was taken away. So I know how important belonging can be and why it's really important that we make it meaningful. Now, some of you will be able to very easily remember what secondary school was like. Some of us, a little bit more hazy. Back at secondary school, my best friend called Amanda, and she was going out with this guy called Mark. Sorry, Mark's in the room. But he was cheating on her. What a loser. So I told her. That's what best friends do, right? And she didn't speak to me for 6 months. 6 months in secondary school is like a lifetime. 6 months of no best friend. 6 months of questioning if I'd made the right call. And 6 months later, when she found out, she said that I was the only one who loved her enough to tell her the truth. And our friendship became stronger than ever. But I had to risk that friendship to be a real friend. Or what about if you're out for dinner or you've gone out for drinks? Lovely, as my daughter would say, chill vibes. And then someone says something at someone else's expense, maybe about their weight, or a bit of casual sexism or racism dressed up as banter, and people laugh. What would we do? Would we laugh because we don't want to upset those chill vibes? Or would we speak up? There is a positive. Rosa Parks wouldn't give up her seat on the bus, and she redefined who was allowed to belong. Nelson Mandela chose 27 years in a prison cell because he decided not to stay silent about what he knew to be true. And in 1983, at the height of the Cold War, a Soviet officer called Stanislav Petrov was working. Suddenly, his screens told him that the United States had launched nuclear missiles, and the protocol was clear: retaliate immediately. But he trusted his judgment and reported it as a false alarm. Phew! He was right. It's a very long story, and you can go and find it on the internet. But he was right. And his choosing to not belong to that protocol prevented nuclear war. So none of them chose comfort. All of them were told then that they didn't belong. But what they actually did was redefine what belonging meant. So I think we've got into this dilemma where we confuse belonging with comfort. I think belonging is it's not about having no friction, but it's about having a place where we can create friction. Some of you might have heard the phrase psychological safety, but I don't think feeling safe to speak is the same as feeling welcome to challenge. And we might feel happy to speak, but only as long as we're reinforcing the consensus. Now, I don't think that's belonging. I think that's more compliance in a nice, comfy cardigan. And there's decades of research that backs this up. A person who genuinely challenges and cares about the outcome will positively impact the rest of the group. So sometimes that difficult person might actually be the most important person in that room. They're not rejecting belonging per se, but they're rejecting what belonging has gradually drifted into. So, what would I love you to do? Well, I'm not going to stand here on this rather lovely red dot and ask you to challenge in every situation, in every circumstance, because that would probably be reckless. But I am asking you to notice the moment. Amanda showed me how important it was to risk the friendship to be a real friend. Rosa Parks redefined belonging. And through researching this talk, there is a price to speaking up. We can imagine that. We've probably felt it ourselves. And I spoke to people where the cost has been far higher than just 6 months of no best friend. Oh, do you remember that lines experiment that Solomon Asch run? When they introduced just one ally into that room, just one, it reduced conformity by 80%. Because suddenly it was okay to speak up. So we don't need a cape-wearing superhero. We don't need a vigilante. We just need one person who has the courage to speak up. Courage. Curiosity. Sounds quite TED-like, doesn't it? Now, if you're a leader in charge of a group of people, perhaps there's a way in which you can build this in to how you work. Encourage people to ask questions and then thank them out loud when they do. And then you're signalling to everybody that it's okay to challenge. So, I'm okay being the difficult one. And are you okay with it? I'm very grateful for having that experience with my best friend Amanda. And it's great that there are stories like Rosa Parks and Stanislav Petrov. And we've got 70 years of research that shows us that we don't have to change the entire room. We just have to change one person, influence one person, one other person. Could you be that person? Belonging worth keeping is not about comfortable silence. It's about putting the mission before the meeting. So I want you to notice it. There's that fork in the road moment when you're deciding, do I speak up or stay silent? Notice it, feel it, and choose. Make a decision rather than a reflex action. Now, if they call you a troublemaker, fantastic. There was a lady at a TEDx talk who said, that's okay. Be thankful because you care enough to speak up about the truth. Be grateful, be thankful, be happy, and then go and ask for a pay rise. Thank you very much.